Hey guys, I'm back with some more flags, this time based around Arc 2 of Wizard 101. First we're going to start with Celestia. This was the Celestia teaser flag that I showed in the last video. This design is based around a bunch of floor patterns seen throughout Celestia, and is pretty much my favorite design for Celestia. Next, this is a flag for the Crustacean Empire, which is a parody of the Roman SPQR banner. Instead of an eagle standard in the center, I chose a nautilus shell, as nautilus shells are ancient and they represent the Crustacean Empire in my mind. And to draw upon that nautilus shell SPQR banner, this is a flag based on Vanuatu's flag. Instead of the standard colors, there's this top green band that represents the lush forests and grasslands of the surface world of Celestia, whereas this bottom blue band shows the water and everything below the surface. Obviously the red and gold represent the Crustacean Empire themselves, but also the gold can represent the sands of Celestia and the astral magic within the world. And finally, this is a flag based on Micronesia, and obviously it harkens back to astral magic, showing off the different astral school sigils and the spiral sigil to match that of the flag of Micronesia. Now moving on to Zafaria. This is a flag based on the Pan-African colors, as Zafaria is a very unique world that's based on a ton of different African cultures. A lot of it is based on more southern African tribes, but a way to represent all of Africa was to use the Pan-African colors. And also I wanted to show off the weapon that the elephants use, which is very similar to an Egyptian khopesh. And I think the moon is a very good symbol to represent Zafaria, as well as it looks like an elephant's tusk. This is a flag that is very obviously based on Kenya. Instead of a shield though, it's more based on the tribal mask that Inyanga White Stripes has, and I tried my best to replicate it, but obviously it's not going to be perfect. And instead of the spears, I chose to use, again, the khopesh of the royal family, but to make them just a bit longer so it matched closer to the flag of Kenya. Now this flag is a bit out of left field, but it's based on the flag of Maryland. The actual flag itself is all of the area besides that red stripe, so you just ignore that red area. That's just how I designed the flag, and I know where to crop. The black and white striped corners represent the zebras of Zafaria, whereas the yellow and orange is supposed to represent both the giraffes as well as the lions and the tigers, and try to evoke the different shapes that you can see on those animals, and gives a kind of different vibe to what a Zafarian flag could be. And lastly is this flag based on the flag of Lesotho. The top red band is a color that can be found throughout the Royal Palace, and the bottom band is also found throughout the Royal Palace, but also is supposed to represent like the skin color of a lot of the rhinos and the elephants of Zafaria. And then in the center is an outline of an actual Zafarian drum. Next, let's move on to Avalon. I had a lot of fun with this because I created an actual coat of arms for Avalon. So within this coat of arms on the very top is a representation of King Artorias' crown. As you can see, it's the same type of design of his crown. The top left is a bear, obviously because King Artorias is a bear. And then the top right panel shows a silver rose, which the parody of the Knights of the Round Table for King Artorias are called the Knights of the Silver Rose, so I wanted to include them. The bottom left panel also represents the knights, but it also represents their loyalty to the king. And then the bottom right panel is a moon and some stars because there's a large number of wizards that come from Avalon, such as Merle Ambrose and even Morganth. Now this flag itself is based on the flag of Galicia in Spain, and I wanted to include a rose color because that is also the official banner color found within Avalon. Next is just another variation of what a flag could be, with the face of a bear with two crossed swords. I feel like this color gives it a more of a Scottish vibe to it, and it was just kind of a way to show the power of King Artorias. Next is a rose colored banner with a golden outline with a silver rose with crossed swords in the middle. This does come directly from the halls of King Artorias, and I tried my best to recreate it in my style, and I think this is probably the best candidate for what the flag of Avalon would be. It's very representative of the Knights of the Silver Rose, and I think the colors work very well. Lastly, I wanted to include another variation using that checkered pattern that's found throughout all the different knights of Avalon. A lot of their tents around Caliburn feature this checkered pattern, but they have different colors to them. And then I also wanted to again include the coat of arms that I made. Now the color of the checkers don't really mean anything. I tried a lot of different colors and they just did not work with the coat of arms, so this was the least egregious choice of a color to make this flag. Now we move on to Azteca, which was one of my favorite worlds to design flags for. So first, this is a flag that's based on an actual indigenous drawing found around, I believe it was Montezuma I. This is a depiction of what that flag looked like that they had. I use the term flag very loosely, but this is something that was actually found painted by the indigenous population. And then I wanted to recreate the central face found within the spell Celestial Calendar, because I feel like that was a very good way to get across this indigenous Mesoamerican feel within this flag. This next flag is also very intricately designed, which I feel like the people of Azteca are very over-designed, but in a way that is beautiful. I mean, you can see it within their colors of their clothing and everything that they have built, all of their weapons, all of their buildings. Everything is so intricate and has very meaningful designs to it and colorful, and I wanted to translate that into a flag. So these are symbols that were found throughout the Zocalo and the cenote and 3 points, just all these different symbols of Azteca. And then moving on, this is a third variation of a flag that was more of a pixelated design, which I think also works very well for Azteca. The two figures in the top left and the top right come directly from the palace of the king of Azteca, and then the central figure is a design seen on the Astral School trainers within 3 points. I thought it also gives a good representation of the Black Sun Pyramid, and it also connects Azteca to astral magic. In this last flag is supposed to be centered more around a serpent and a quetzal. The image in the center behind the quetzal is found directly on a rug within the palace of the king of Azteca, and I also wanted to keep a lot of the intricate designs to keep making Azteca have these beautiful flags that you would definitely understand where it's coming from, what type of people designed it in the Aztec Empire, but I think it works really well as a flag. And then there's this last variation of a flag that I think represents Azteca at its lowest. This is basically just a rug design that was found within the palace of the king of Azteca, but it does a very good job of showcasing a desolate world that was once colorful and has now been devoid of life. It's currently in the middle of an extinction. This is like what I imagine the flag would be after Xibalba. Now moving on to Chrysalis Part 1. These are flags that are supposed to be based on the Deer Knights and King Payet Morningsword, so these are the good guys of Chrysalis. First is another coat of arms. At the top of the coat of arms is a representation of King Payet Morningsword's crown. The top left panel represents the Sugar Gliders. The top right panel represents the Deer Knights. The bottom right panel actually represents the bees in the Moon Cliffs. And then the bottom left panel is a mouse print to represent all the different Deer Knights that serve the realm. This next flag is just the crown of King Payet Morningsword with his antlers poking through. I think it's a simple design, but it gets the message across very well. And I honestly really like the colors of this. It gives it a much more of a meaningful thing because Chrysalis is kind of a gray, desolate world, but it still allows for the beauty and loyalty of the king to show through. This next flag is just the phases of the moon because the moon is a very sacred idea for Chrysalis. There's the Moon Cliffs, there's the Eclipse Tower. This is where you learn shadow magic and everything, and this is just something that's very meaningful to the people of Chrysalis, so I feel like a flag that represents the phases of the moon gets the point of Chrysalis across very well. Finally, this is a design where the hilt of the sword is based on, again, the crown of King Payet Morningsword, and since there's so many knights within this society, this is a way for the flag to represent the knights, represent the people of Chrysalis Chrysalis who are defending themselves from the Shadow Army. And also it gives a much better picture of a brighter future once they win, against what is normally a very dark, grays, purples, desolate world. Now moving on, there are a lot of flags that I wanted to use for Morganth's army. I wanted to have a separation between good Chrysalis and evil Chrysalis, and so these are designs that are based on Morganth, and a lot of them were too difficult for me to decide which ones to post, so I was able to only post 4 of them, but there are more than just the ones that I posted in this video. So first, this is just a very simple version of shadow magic. I think this would be, again, a very easy way to represent Morganth and the Shadow Army, and I also thought that it would also work with these colors. I couldn't decide between the two. I posted this one. This one I think also works, but again, it doesn't work very well on Chrysalis. It would work very well representing it elsewhere. Next, this is a flag that was inspired by a certain military force from a certain European empire, but instead of showing off the exact same type of flag, I also wanted to incorporate that web design, that spider web design that is seen throughout the Hive and with Morganth in her spider form, and all of her actual flags that show up in the Shadow Palace have these web designs, so I wanted to incorporate that somehow. This is a flag that I ended up cutting because I think it's a little too boring, but this is just based off of the crown of Morganth, since I like designing the flags based on crowns. This is the flag that is based on a lot of flags with cantons in the corner. Specifically, these ones are closer to Taiwan and Samoa and Tonga, where it's a field of red with a lighter blue or sometimes white canton in the corner with some star design. But instead of a star design, this is more based on a spider because there's the 8 legs, and it also feels like it's more of an eclipse, so it's like casting a shadow down. Obviously there's a shadow sigil in the center, but it's like a very dull type of sun. So this is the sun in the middle of an eclipse, and I think that's a very good representation of the Shadow Queen. Next is another flag that's very specific Central European type of army flag. I just thought it was a really cool design. Same with this one, but I think this one's a little bit too controversial, but I think it looks very good in this context with who Morganth is. And then finally, this is a flag also based on a German state flag, or a city flag, I think. This is the flag of Ham in Germany, and Morganth's colors are very black and purple, so I thought this was a good way to incorporate that, and I think this checkerboard off-center design gives a good idea of the chaos that Morganth brings about. So those are all the flags that I designed for Arc 2. A lot of work went into them. I had to cut a lot of them. It took a lot of renditions for some of them. Some of them are really over-designed, but I really like them. Some of them are really simple and I really like them. There's also some that I just aren't a huge fan of, but I didn't really know what else to do with them. This was really, really difficult, and I'm definitely looking forward to Arc 3 and some more of the side worlds to try and incorporate a lot more new techniques, new flags, new symbolism, and I'm really excited to show you what I have coming up. Comment below which is your favorite flag from this video. Do you have any other flag ideas? And then also make sure to leave a like, subscribe. I'm also really close to 1,000 subscribers. My 1,000 subscriber stream is still in the works, and I'll see you in the next one.